What happens if you do fight Conor?
I do believe that I knock him out in the second round.
Aaron coming back with the White House.
Yeah, is it Chandler?
I'd love it to be Chandler.
I've studied Conor. I've watched his fights. I have watched his areas in which I can exploit and the areas in which I can dominate him. And I do believe that immediately from the first bell, I meet him in the center and I immediately start making him second guess himself. He's gonna go downhill and he's gonna go downhill quick and I'm gonna see an opening and I'm gonna get the finish.
The walk-on mentality, that having that mentality of jumping into the deep end, pushing yourself beyond limits. Where's the walk-on mentality of fighting Conor McGregor? Like, do you feel that you've got that walk-on mentality with that fight? Yeah,
patience. Extreme patience, patience that a lot of people question. That's number one. Number two, it's the perfect closing of a chapter to get to the next chapter for the guy who was doubted and the guy who wasn't supposed to be there, the guy who walked on, who started at the bottom of the totem pole and there was only one way to go, which was up, to be standing across the octagon against the biggest name in combat sports. In the history of combat sports, there may never be a guy who becomes bigger than Conor McGregor, no matter how big the sport gets. It just seems so fitting that it's me. The guy who was not the biggest name, the guy who didn't cut his teeth in the UFC for a decade, the guy who was outside of the UFC, the guy who was a walk-on at Mizzou, the guy who was and has an image and a message of, hey, I have doubted myself just like you doubt yourself. I have self-sabotaged myself just like you have. I have had the self-deprecating thoughts and the self-image issues just like you have. But hey, guess what? Here I am. And all it is the diligent, consistent, persistent pursuit of becoming my best self that I'm still able to be standing here today in this position with a contract signed with Chandler versus McGregor. This is the Super Bowl of a mixed martial arts career. When you get into the sport of mixed martial arts, you want the biggest names, the brightest lights, the biggest platform, the highest stakes. This is all of those things times 100 compared to every single other fight that will happen in the next 5 years.
The one thing I love about the fight itself is the battle of the minds, the manifestation thing. And I think a large conversation when Conor first came to the UFC was manifestation, how he'd manifest situations. And then, it's something massive to you, this mentality of manifestation. When you manifest that fight, talk us through it. I know we spoke about it briefly on the bike, but talk me through what that's like. Do you manifest, do you envision stepping into the cage, the smells, the feeling, the stadium, Conor's face on the other side of the ring? What's it like?
More important than the opponent and the two arms and the two legs and the job to do, more important is the aura of the event. Number one, it has been the longest build up to a fight that we have ever seen, right? It's been taking a year and a half, could end up being 2 years by the time it happens. And then to compound on top of that, it's the biggest fight of the last 5 years. It'll be the biggest fight of the next 5 years. So just stepping into that arena, which is a different arena than any other arena that any other fighter is listening to right now, or any other fight that I have had, because the stakes are that high and a fight against him is that big. So starting to visualize and see myself handling that well, handling the pressure of the moment, handling the bigness of the moment, the massive implications that this fight has surrounding it. And then you hone in on the two arms and the two legs and the opponent and his strengths and his weaknesses and how I think I go out there and absolutely dismantle him. And I believe I've studied Conor. I've watched his fights. I have watched his areas in which I can exploit and the areas in which I can dominate him. And I think there are many ways that I can finish this fight. And I do believe that immediately from the first bell, I meet him in the center and I immediately start making him second guess himself. Immediately, Conor's going to come out and he's going to try to get in my face. He's going to try to take control of the fight. And very quickly, he will realize that he is in in an octagon with a very, very game opponent. I do believe that I knock him out in the second round. I believe that when the self-doubt starts coming in, when all of the deficiencies of his actions, the compounding effect of his lack of focus for the sport of mixed martial arts, when all of those things start setting in at a subconscious level and it raises his heart rate, he's going to go downhill, and he's going to go downhill quick, and I'm going to see an opening, and I'm going to get the finish.
A quick interruption from the video. It is coming to the end of the year, and you know what that means. Mulligan Brothers Not a Journal and the Memento Mori posters are back on sale. Buy one, get one free. Use code 2026 at checkout to get 2 journals for the price of one, or you can mix and match with the Memento Mori posters. The journal was designed by myself. It's super simple. It has goals, affirmations, it has a list to get stuff done, and it breaks it down every single day. And then we have the Memento Mori poster, a poster that reminds you that you are going to die. And as morbid as that sounds, it's been one of the most motivational tools I have used in my life. I've shaded it up until the age that I am, and every single week I shade in another black square. Somewhere along there, it could have been the square that I filled in this morning, there is a square that will be my last. And that to me is one of the most powerful and motivational framing that I've ever had. So if you want the journal, if you want the poster, head over to mulliganbrothers.com with a link down below and use code 2026 up until stocks last. Once it's gone, guys, like every year we always sell out, it is gone.
That's the thing that I was interested in. If you'd got to the point where you had situations and you'd fought through or felt through situations through sort of visualization of a finish, of a specific moment, like is there multiple? I know obviously there is multiple ways you would finish a fight, but in your head, are there multiple options, or do you have are you fixated on certain things? Or
obviously the most exciting way to finish somebody is a knockout. The most desirable way to finish somebody is a knockout. But I think a fight like this is watching 2 guys start fighting and then watch one man shrink and watch the other man grow, and watch one man gain momentum as the other one loses steam, to see the actual human spirit dominate the other man, his opponent's human spirit, to watch him wilt and to get on top of him and beat him with my fists until he gives up his neck and I snatch his soul out of his body. That would be ideal. I think whether I just hit him with so many punches that the ref pulls me off of him, or he turns over and I take his neck and then rip his soul out of his body from his neck.
When we spoke about the work that you're doing outside of the octagon, the training, or even in the octagon, everything, to the diet, those tiny details. Do you think that your level of that is way above what Conor's doing? Do you think that you are exceptionally above that?
I do. I think, obviously I have no problem saying that I believe I'm the most prepared guy and trained the hardest and trained the most with the most attention to detail of any fighter, let alone Conor, who has shown chinks in his armor of enjoying the spoils of his labors, enjoying the lavish lifestyle that he has, enjoying the money that he has, enjoying the spotlight and the platform that he has. And all of those things take you away from keeping the main thing. And the main thing is just the work, the grind, the accomplishments from 2016 and 2017 and 2018 are not going to carry you into accomplishments into 2024. We're talking about 6 years ago, 7 years ago, 8 years ago. We're talking about a new time. And you're also talking, to compound that, you're talking about a guy who has been doing every single thing right since he was 14 years old in hand-to-hand combat. And yes, I've had my moments, and yes, I've had my setbacks, but ultimately it's been a constant, steady growth since the year 2000. And here we are.
There's 2 points on this that I'll ring the question off, but the first one is just asking about sort of how you've maintained your hunger. But I'm curious if you'd comment on this as well, is because I feel like what we're talking about now is 2 different types of people now. And I think when I can't remember if it was a documentary or something, but Conor spoke about he'd spend his check so he could stay hungry. You know, he'd spend his whole check so he could stay hungry within a fight. Do you think the fact that he's reached both of you have reached this level of success, that he's lost some hunger in that? Like, it's, you know, he's not the wolf on the hill anymore, you know?
Yeah.
And how have you maintained the other side of that?
Yeah. I mean, I can't judge a man without knowing him, but I mean, obviously we all know publicly how he acts, how he reacts, how he lives his life. I've always been a guy who there's never enough for me, you know? So like I was always very, very smart with my money. I made prudent investments, set aside money for taxes. So I never spent my money. I was always investing in other things, investing in businesses, investing in real estate. And even now, we're having a very comfortable financial picture. It's still not enough because I believe that I can make more and I can create more, and I am self-sufficient enough to make massive amounts of money, but more importantly, the platform, and more importantly, the significance, and more importantly, the shining light that I can be to a younger generation. You know, the age-old debate of, you know, are professional athletes role models? You know, some will say we are, and some will say, hey, I didn't sign up for that. I just want to play my sport. I just want to do my thing. I've always been the kind of guy who, I know there's young men, especially, looking at me. So it's very important to me to continue that reputation and to continue that platform. That more than the money, and that more than the fame, so to speak, or the celebrity, so to speak. Whereas a guy like Conor, I don't think that is high on his priority list. I think power and money and the illusion of significance and happiness has kind of been his main goal the last 6 years since he fought Floyd Mayweather.